Hello and welcome to this ATG webinar. My name is Patrick Podine. I'm an AEC technical specialist here at ATG USA. And today we're going to cover the Dynamo vending machine, or quite frankly known as Dictionaries within Dynamo. A little bit about myself. Again, I'm a technical specialist here at ATG USA. I'm a certified professional in Revit architecture, Revit structure. I do a lot of training in Dynamo. I'm on the Dynamo forums quite frequently, trying to help people and users better their workflows and help them. I'm also a seasoned amateur golfer, and I'm also a foodie. If you have a Twitter account too, please give me a follow. It is at the Notorious BIM. I don't know how I came up with that or how I was lucky enough to have that handle, but if you could give me a follow, greatly appreciate it. I like to post a lot of my Dynamo stuff on there. So why are we here? We're here to talk about Dynamo dictionaries, and it could be a way to sort of streamline your workflows when you have a large list of data, and instead of trying to remember the indexes of elements to call those items from or any sort of filtering, Dynamo dictionaries can kind of help with that and make things a lot easier and streamlined. What are we going to learn today? We're going to look at how we can apply dictionaries to our current workflows where applicable, and we're also going to identify how to extract data to be used for dictionaries. First of all, what are dictionaries? This comes straight out of the Dynamo primer. Dictionaries are just represent a collection of data that is related to another piece of data known as a key. Dictionaries expose the ability to search for, delete, and insert data into a collection. And so a really clever way of thinking about how a dictionary is, I actually came across this by attending another Dynamo user group in the UK. And they talked about think of dictionaries as a vending machine, and quite frankly, with the vending machine, you have to enter in a number or a letter and a number, and once you insert that, out comes some sort of object. So you press E7 and you get a bag of chips out of it, or you press D3 and you get a bag of chocolates. That sort of thing. That sort of concept. Relating it back to Dynamo, the number that you insert is going to be your key, and the thing you're going to get out of it is going to be your value. So when we're in Dynamo, we're going to be looking to set the keys and set the values that are going to be associated to those keys. So let's look at some of the nodes that are in there. The node that will be used to create the dictionary is dictionary.byKeys and values. These nodes were all converted to out-of-the-box nodes in the 2.0 release. Prior to that, you had to utilize design script in order to work with it and use dictionaries. The keys have to be strings. Prior to that, I believe they could be objects other than strings. And then the value can be any sort of object type. So a string, a number, a point, a Revit element, virtually anything can be associated and inputted into that value. Looking at the modify and action nodes for the dictionaries, we have a couple in here where dictionary value at key is going to be the one that you'll use the most, the one that I use the most to extract a value by inserting a key. We can also see the components that make up that dictionary, look at all the keys and the values. We can remove keys just by simply typing in the key or inputting the key into the keys, and we'll remove that key and value out from our dictionary. We can also set values. We can add additional keys and values to our dictionaries, as well as override ones that are already existing in our dictionary. We can also query things in our dictionary. We can count the amount of items in our dictionary, and we can get the keys and get the values kind of as separate nodes. So I'm not one for PowerPoint presentations. I'm more about the examples and the demonstrations. So let's kind of get into that. So here I have Revit 2021, and kind of the first workflow I'm going to go through. I showcase this in a one of my first webinars about Dynamo. And real quickly before I get any further, there's a Q&A portion in Zoom, and If you have any questions, go ahead and write those questions in there, and I will get to those as soon as we get to the end of this presentation. Um, so you're probably wondering why my tabs are colored. This is from Parallax team. This is a cool add-in that allows you to color code your tabs, and that's why you are seeing my tabs as a different color. But for this workflow, what I'm doing is I have a project that doesn't have any walls loaded in by default, just basic one walls, because Revit won't allow you to remove all of the walls out of a Revit project. So in this file, I have a container file which has all of the walls that I would wish to have inside of my project, though I don't want all of them at the same time loaded into my project. What I have in here also is under the type mark, I have a value associated to it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this Revit file in the background, grab the walls that are in that file, grab the type mark, and create a dictionary using the type mark and the wall that's associated to that type mark. Rather than using a filter or a get item at index, I'm going to just simply insert the actual type mark that I want in order to get the wall that I want loaded into my project. So let me close that. Let me close this out. Let me open up Dynamo here. And I already have this workflow kind of already created. Here, I'm using Rhythm's application.open document file, allows me to open up a document in the background. From there, I am then collecting the wall types that are loaded into that project. And then from there, I'm grabbing the type mark, which I'm using to represent my keys. And then the walls are going to be there to represent my values. So let's go ahead and browse to that file. Let's hit open. And I have it frozen here. And so if we see here, we can see all of the wall types that are loaded in our project. We have 27 of them. And then we can see all of the type marks that are written to there. We do have a null down here at the bottom, and that's represented of the stacked wall. As you can see, I'm just replacing that null value with the word stacked wall because I know that that null is going to deliver, is going to be derived from a stacked wall. From here, I have the type marks again. I'm setting that to my keys at the dictionary by keys and values. I'm creating my dictionary here. And as I expand this, you can see all of the keys that are associated to the walls that are loaded into this file. Again, this is an unordered collection of data. We don't need it to be ordered in any sense. We just need the two to be paired together. From there, I'm using dictionary.value at key. I'm then inserting a code block of a list of strings. And if you're curious how to create a list of strings using a code block, you need the square brackets followed by commas to separate the two apart. And so in here, I wish to grab wall P8 and wall P6. Now you can associate anything that you want to your keys. Here, I'm just reusing the type mark to represent my key. And so when I put in P8 and P6, it's going to populate out for me the wall that's associated to P8 and the wall that's associated to P6. If I wish to add more walls into here or wish to grab more walls, so say I want to grab a P16, I'll type in P16 followed by the parentheses that illustrates that it is part of a string. I'll hit F5 again, and I can see that it gave me the wall that's associated to P16. So this is a really smart and efficient way to grab walls based off of a value or a key that you've associated to it. So let's go ahead and unfreeze this node here, drag Dynamo off to the side for kind of a dramatic effect. We'll hit F5. It's loaded my walls. Another thing that it did in the background too is it closed the document that I had previously opened, which we definitely want to do whenever we're opening up a document in the background. If we don't close it, Revit will get angry at us. Also, Dynamo will get angry at us, and we don't want that. So if I now go back to my walls, I can see here that it then did load all of those walls that I had pre-chosen in my dictionary and loaded those into my file. Now, this doesn't just need to be for walls. It could be virtually anything else. If you have legends that you wish to have in a container file and load into your project and have users pick and choose which ones you want to have, you can associate a something to it to utilize the dictionary method to grab those. You can use this for view templates. You can use this for detail views, drafting views, anything like that you can utilize this method for. All right, so we'll jump to the next one. And for this next example, what I'm going to do is I have a consultant that has given me his sheet list in Excel. And you've probably had this too, where you have consultants that are working in AutoCAD and you need to create their sheets in your project so that way your sheet index will populate properly. Well, in here, they've just given me the sheet number and the sheet name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to utilize the first character of the sheet number, and I'm going to use that to place my sheets in the correct place. If I go to my sheet here, and what I'm going to do is use that, that first character to deliver a discipline and deliver a sheet order. So that way when they get created and populated into my Revit file, they're going to categorize correctly in my sheet browser, and they're also going to categorize correctly in my sheet list. So let's go ahead and open that. So opening up this graph here, I can see that I'm extracting out elements or data from the Excel file. I'm then doing a transpose so I can get the sheet numbers and the sheet lists, sheet numbers and sheet names separated out. And then from there, I'm creating my dictionary here. As you can see, if it starts with an M, I want you to give me the words mechanical and 3-mechanical, which is going to be used for my discipline and my suborder. Same thing for electrical, same thing for plumbing, as you can see here. And if you're curious how to create a list of lists, this is how you create it. So you first, to create a list of strings, you want to use the square brackets. Then to create a nested list, you use another pair of square brackets there. I'm going to freeze this node here. I'm going to navigate to that Excel file. I'm going to hit F5 to run this. We can kind of look at the inputs in here so you can see it's giving me the sheet number and the sheet name. I then transpose it so I get the sheet numbers and sheet names separated apart from each other, just so it makes it a little bit easier for me to grab them and work with them. From there, I'm using a get item at index just to get the sheet numbers, another get item at index to get the sheet names. From here, I'm then grabbing the length of the sheet number so I can remove the characters after the first letter, because I know all of those sheet numbers are going to start with the letter that I wish to use, followed by a series of digits that I wish to remove. So I get the sheet, the length of that string, subtract it by 1 because I don't want to remove all of them, I just want to remove the 3 after. Using a string.remove node, I can then start at index 1, which means it's going to start after this M and remove everything after that via this string length. From there, I've created my dictionary. I'll drag this down. And you can see here associated, whenever I insert an E, it's going to give me electrical and /electrical. Anytime I insert an M or it finds an M, it's going to give me mechanical, 3-mechanical, same thing for plumbing. So if we look at our dictionary value at key, we can kind of see here and see how they relate to one another. I'm giving it an M, it's going to deliver out an M for me all the way throughout the entire. And so if you are working with your consultant and you know kind of their nomenclature for sheet numbering or anything like that, you can have this kind of pre-associated and pre-set up, predefined. Not only does this work for mechanical, electrical, plumbing, this can work for a number of other things that are sheet related for this example. The next thing that I'm doing is I'm transposing it. I'm separating the discipline apart from the sheet order, creating a list here of my sheet numbers and sheet names. And if you've seen in a previous webinar that I've given, the method that I use to set multiple parameters at one time, I utilize this list.combine node. So if you wish to understand this a little bit further, you can go back and see that webinar. I've also posted on LinkedIn how I use this in sort of a definitive description on what's going on. Essentially what this is doing is it's taking each input here and it's just running the element set parameter once and then redoing it again until it's run out of entities or inputs to run through. So it's going to run through it 4 times. So if I unfreeze this, drag this over, I don't have any sheets in here. Actually, it did create those after I ran it. Let's go ahead and remove those. Let's hit run, give it a couple seconds, minimize Dynamo here. we can see here that it did populate all of my sheets with the given discipline and the given sheet order. If I go into this mechanical, I can open up this file. I can see that it set the discipline and it set the sheet order for all of my mechanical sheets, all of my electrical sheets, and all of my plumbing sheets. So a pretty quick and efficient way to create sheets, as well as set them to the right discipline and the right sheet order, or whatever method that you utilize within your own company to organize your sheets in the project browser, as well as in the sheet list here as indicated. Further to with that, if you had periodic submittals from your consultant to tell you what sheets are to be included in the set at that moment in time, you can have another box here that illustrates a 1 or a 0 just to set this appears in sheet list. So if it has a 1, it'll leave this as turned on. If it has a 0, this will be turned off, or something that you can set thereafter. So that's it for this sheet list, creating the sheet index for the workflow. Let's jump into the next one now. And I've shown this in a previous webinar as well. What we've done here is I have a bunch of furniture families that are placed throughout my project. From here, I found the location of which room it subsided in. From there, I grabbed the room number, room name, and set it to the comments as well. Set the room number and room name to the comments. So for this example, what I'm going to do is I've sent all of this information out to Excel. Let me open up that Excel data sheet here. And so I've sent it all out to Excel with the element ID, the phase created, and the work set. And so what I've done in this workflow, and what we're going to do is we're going to actually change the work set that some of these elements are set to. And another thing that I did when sending out to Excel is I also sent out the amount of the work sets that are loaded into my project out to Excel. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a dictionary to set the work set of each one of these furniture families. So let's go back into Revit. Let's go into Dynamo here. Close out of this Dynamo graph here. Please close. All right, got to close this. Go back here, open up Dynamo. If you didn't know, you can have Dynamo in your quick access toolbar simply by right-clicking on it in the Manage tab where it's located and sending it to the quick access toolbar. So let's go ahead and open this, and let's look at this workflow here, write changes from Excel to Revit. Let's go ahead and browse to that Excel file here. Room data, go ahead and hit open. Hit F5, and let's kind of look at what's going on here. So here I'm importing the Excel file here, grabbing all the data. From here, I'm getting only the indexes or the elements that I wish to grab, which are in index 1 and index 3, which is the element ID and the work set. I need the element ID in order to retrieve those Revit elements back out of the Excel file, which I sent them from, as you can see denoted here. And if I use Monocle real quick, very useful package to annotate custom nodes inside. I'm using the Wombat Dynamo package to get elements by their ID. And so here I'm just transposing the list, getting the element IDs themselves, removing the first item, which is the ID, so I don't necessarily need that, and then inserting it into my element ID so I have those element IDs. From here, I'm then grabbing the work sets that I have in my file, or work sets that I wish to set those elements to, removing that first item out. So removing the work set out of it. And then from there, this is going to be represented of my keys. Here I'm using Archilab to get all of my work sets in my project, getting the work sets by the name, which is going to be my keys, and then getting the work set by ID, which is going to be my values. I want to get the IDs because that is what's needed in order to set the actual work set of a Revit element. From here, you can see I created the dictionary here. And so the name is going to be associated to the number as my key. And so whenever I insert the key or the name of the work set here, let me move that out of the way. I can see A_workset1. I'm going to get the element ID that's associated to that work set. As I go down in my list, I get to number 75. I see that it's going to give me X underscore rendering. And if I see here X underscore rendering 380, scroll down, I can see that it's going to give me that value. Once I have all of this set, I know that it's going to give me the right work sets. Let me unfreeze this. If you wish to know how to set the work set parameter of a Revit element, first of all, you need the element, then the name of the work set, and then again, as I mentioned previously, we need to get the value, set the value, and that value is going to be the work set ID. So if I hover on one of these Revit furniture families here, this is one of them that I believe is going to change. Let me go back up into Dynamo, hit F5 to run it. It's going to throw me a null because these families here are nested families to this one, so these ones are just going to take hold of whatever work set this one is under. If I minimize Dynamo and I hover on this, I can see that the work set has changed from A underscore work set 1 to X underscore entourage. I can see that this one also has changed. This one as well. They all used to be A underscore work set 1. So pretty useful way if you're looking to get information and send it to Excel, manipulate it a little bit, and then bring it back into Revit. For this example alone, I'm looking at the work sets that I'm wishing to set, and I'm using the dictionaries here, which happens to be a useful method for me. There might be other ways to kind of work around this, but always dictionaries are very useful in this fashion. When I started building this workflow the first time, I kind of had a little bit of trouble trying to figure out how am I going to extract the actual work set that it needs to be located on, or the work set ID. Took me a while to think about it, and then I came back to dictionaries. Dictionaries, again, are something that people tend to forget exist inside of Dynamo, or don't even know that they exist at all. And so dictionaries are very, very powerful and allow you to do a lot of really awesome things, such as this sort of lookup table. All right, so let's look at another workflow here. For this workflow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use the dictionaries to find the furniture families that are located in a specific room by inserting the room name itself. You may have seen this in a previous LinkedIn post that I had originally put out there, showcasing this and showcasing dictionaries in a very powerful way, and kind of explain what's going on here. So we're getting all elements of a category, we're getting the furniture families, we're getting all elements of that furniture category in our project. We're then using the rhythm node family instance dot room to find out the room that the element is located in this case, that being a furniture family. So let me hit run. So we can kind of see we're getting all the furniture families in our project. We're getting the rooms that those furniture families reside in. We're getting the room names from there. And then from there, we're just creating we're grouping them by a key. We're grouping all of the furniture families by the room that they're associated in. So you can see here all of my groups, and then all of my unique keys. So everything that's located inside of the cafeteria room name is going to get that key. And then I'm just switching it up. I'm using the unique keys as my actual key, and then I'm using everything that's grouped together as my specific values. So what that means is when I use this dictionary value at key, when I throw in the room name of, say, the cafeteria or the computer lab, it's going to spit out for me all of the families that are located in those rooms itself. And this is getting multiple sets of furniture that are in multiple sets of rooms. So using that, again, creating a list using the square brackets here. And then here, get the furniture per room here. Again, thank you everyone for coming. Stay safe out there. So again, thank you so much for attending.